Greetings, adventurer, and welcome to the Elder Scrolls Library. My name is Aurelius, your lore master, and today we are reading and discussing Guide to Anvil. The book Guide to Anvil appears in only one of the Elder Scrolls games, Oblivion. This book is, it's a guide to the city of Anvil in the Province of Cyrodiil. It covers the ruling family of the town, its districts, and other prominent locations or organizations operating inside the city. Let's get into Guide to Anvil. Alessia Otis's Guide to Anvil. Sweet Debella, Lady of Love, bless us and our children. My name is Alessia Otis, and I'd like to tell you all about Anvil. The seat of Anvil County is by the sea, and at first glance is very pretty, but when you examine it closely, turns out to be quite unpleasant. The water views are charming, but on the docks and in the harbor district outside of town, you will find many sailors and tramps and dirty persons of little worth. Castle Anvil is clean and well ordered, and within the town walls, some houses are bright and cheerful, but others are derelict and abandoned, or shabby and neglected, with plaster fallen in patches from the stonework, and lunatics and drunkards may be encountered everywhere. Castle Anvil. The ruler of Anvil is Countess Melona Umbernox. Her husband, Corvus Umbernox, disappeared many years ago, and most persons would agree that her ladyship is better off without him, for he was a light and frivolous person and given to loose and riotous behavior likely to promote scandal. The Countess herself is a righteous and godly woman, and an excellent ruler, well loved by the people. If only she could compel her town guard to drive the seamen, lowlifes, loafers, and thieves from Anvil's streets, Anvil might be a more tolerable place to live. Districts of Anvil. Consider the 5 districts of Anvil. Castle Anvil lies outside the town walls, south of town, overlooking the harbor, and is reached by gate from Chapelgate. Within the town walls are 3 districts: Chapelgate in the east, Westgate in the west, and Guildgate between Chapelgate and Westgate. Harborside lies outside the town walls, south of town, and is reachable by gate from Westgate district. Chapelgate. A more beautiful chapel may not be seen in all Cyrodiil. A quiet garden for meditation with a fine statue of Debella lies between the chapel and the town wall, and across from the chapel is a lovely garden and covered arcade where worshippers are protected from the elements. Regrettably, the people of Anvil seem little inclined to appreciate these advantages and are seldom seen worshipping in the chapel. Whether this is the fault of the primate, who is a vain and shallow woman, or the countess, who does little to encourage regular chapel worship by her example, I am unable to judge. Guildgate. The most prosperous part of Anvil is entered by Guildgate, or Main Gate, or North Gate. Here, side by side, may be seen the handsomest and ugliest of Anvil buildings. The guilds are kept clean and in good repair, and both Mages Guild and Fighters Guild are unusually ambitious and industrious by Cyrodiil's common standard. The head of the Mages Guild, Carahil, is a scholar of good reputation and an outspoken enemy of necromancy, summoning, and the dark arts. The Fighters Guild here is well staffed and active, and shows no sign of the fecklessness and poor morale of chapters elsewhere in Cyrodiil. However, next to the Mages Guild is a ruin, long boarded up and abandoned, and a prominent eyesore. Westgate. This is the residential district of Anvil. The houses here are shabby and ill-kept. The people are untidy and dull, with the exception of Anvil's famous citizen, the Argonian authoress Quillweave, who produces wretched books celebrating the misadventures and schemes of the lower and criminal classes. This person does her race no favor by confirming the prejudices of many who consider Argonians to be ungodly, dishonest, and worthless, and little better than beasts. Harborside. The docks are rotten and in ill repair, and all manner of smells issue forth from the holds of ships and ramshackled warehouses. Shiftless persons gather here to bask in the sun, gossip, chatter, and plot how to beg or steal gold for wine and ale. Here a good woman named Mirabelle Monet runs a house for homeless sailors, but I'm sorry to say, her mistaken tender-heartedness and charity only encourages malingering and drunkenness. Instead, she should urge these wicked and idle men to improve themselves through industry and the teachings of the Nine. There is, however, a very appealing lighthouse south of the harbor, from which one may contemplate a distant and less disagreeable view of Anvil's castle, town, and its harbor setting. May the Nine guard and guide you. And so begins us working our way through the guidebooks of Cyrodiil. There will be 8 total city guidebooks that we end up doing. At least those are the ones in the Oblivion game that we're working through. 1 for each of the main cities, naturally. And all 8 of these books are written by the same in-game character, Alessia Otis. Alessia Otis is a resident of the Imperial City, and as we go through her books over the next couple of months, we will find her to be quite the judgmental individual, and racist individual, and perhaps not give the most accurate or fair statements about a place or its people. Anyway, let's get into what the book actually says. The book begins by calling for a blessing from Dibella. This will be a theme that we notice throughout the guidebooks of Cyrodiil. The deity mentioned at the beginning of the book is not random either. The god mentioned matches the temple that is found in that particular city. We also quickly see the very classist mindset that she has, clearly looking down upon sailors, of all people, considering them persons of little worth. Castle Anvil. Not much is said about the actual castle, but rather the ruler of it, Melona Umbernox. Melona took control over the town after her husband Corvus disappeared. Alessia Otis clearly sees this as being for the best, as Melona is a devout follower of the Nine. Alessia, once again, shows her contempt for sailors and others she considers lowlifes, saying that if only the city guards would get rid of them, Anvil might be more tolerable. The chapel in Anvil is one of Dibella. The grounds also contain a garden with a statue of Dibella. A lot of criticism is given towards the people of Anvil, as they are seen to have little inclination to worship at the chapel. Alessia even goes so far as to blame the primate, that would be the local priest or priestess, as well as the Countess Umbernox for the community's lack of enthusiasm. Guildgate is said to be the most prosperous section of the city. It boasts both the Mages and the Fighters Guild. The author seems quite pleased with the state of both of these guilds. Her praise of the Mages Guild seems to be centered around the head of the guild being against necromancy and other dark arts. Westgate is the residential district in the city, and once again Alessia doesn't hold back at all, describing the houses as shabby and ill-kept, and the people she calls untidy and dull. With one exception, Quillweave. Quillweave is likely Anvil's most famous citizen. She's a fiction author. Some of her works include Red Crater and The Goblin with the Golden Army, the kinds of books that Alessia Otis seems to absolutely detest. The last part of the city is the harbor, which is seemingly as run down as the rest of the town. Mirabelle Monet runs a house for the homeless. Alessia has good words to say about the woman herself, but not really her work, claiming that her actions just encourage drunkenness and malingering. It is the opinion of Alessia that these people don't need charity as much as they need to be taught to improve themselves through trade skills and teachings of the Nine. And there we go, the Guide to Anvil, the beginning of a small little series of books. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me what you think about this book in the comments below. And may the blessings of the 8 Divines be upon you.